Hey guys, this is Dave from netcodesource.com, and I'm going to be doing my second segment of the Razer Academy videos. In this video, I'm going to discuss crosshair placement. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with positioning, and I'm going to give you guys a small tip regarding something called left eye peaks. So let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to talk about is crosshair placement. Now, there's the obvious, right? You always want to be aimed at headshot level, but it's a lot more complicated than that. So I'm going to give you a small example. This is a spot on Nuke at ramp, and it's a spot I deagle from a lot, right? Now, you may think it's obvious. You want to be aimed right here. But I, for instance, don't do that. I aim right here. And there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is that I feel like this is the most common thing for people to do, and that's to strafe out wide like this. Now when they strafe out wide like this, I'm going to get that headshot. Okay, they're going to walk right into my crosshair. Now if I was aiming right here, that would be better if someone turns the corner quick and goes like this. Then I'm going to get that shot on that guy. Now, so right there, that's two different spots where you could aim your crosshair, right? Right here and right here, right? They could also crouch out. You know, obviously I'd be aimed lower if that was the point, or if that was the case. They could jump out and do all sorts of crazy things. But the bottom line is, crosshair placement isn't that simple. There's a lot of things to take into account. You're not always going to be aimed right here because, you know, there's a lot of different peaks that people can do. So if they do a different peak, you're not always going to be ready for it. So whenever I am posted up somewhere, I always try to think about what people do the most. And I take that into account, and then I, you know, put my crosshair in the same spot pretty much every time, and then I know myself. I know my reaction time, which is the second thing I want to talk about. When discussing crosshair placement, everybody's going to be different. You're always going to have a different reaction time than somebody else. So it may seem simple, but you're going to be aimed maybe just, you know, an eighth of a millimeter more to the left or right of, you know, someone else, whether you have better or worse reaction time than someone. So that's another thing to note, is knowing yourself and knowing your reaction time. If I can give you guys one small tip about crosshair placement and improving your reaction time even, it's anticipating things. If you are anticipating what you're going to see next, it's going to greatly improve your reaction time. Counter-Strike, a lot of it is just about anticipating and always being ready for everything. Alright guys. Alright guys, so the next thing I want to talk about is going a bit more in depth with positioning and how it's kind of hand in hand with crosshair placement. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is when I'm opping, right? And when I'm opping, the common spot for me to op at would be here, like this. And I do op here a lot of the time, usually on anti-ecos and things like that when I know they have deagles, because 99% of the time I'm going to get this kill and they're not going to kill me. And then I'm going to be able to kill one, you know, come back here, flash off this wall, help my teammate, things like that. Okay? But on gun rounds, I don't usually post there. Usually I post here, alright? Or here. Now, I'm going to show you two big differences of how I aim. If I am here, I actually double scope like this. Reasoning for that is, usually they're just teetering across the edge, and you'll be able to catch them with just like their gun out like this. And a lot of the time they're setting up a flashbang like that, and I'll actually be able to see them, I'll be able to throw nades, I'll be able to shoot them a lot of the time when they come and they run forward to throw this. And if I wasn't double scoped aiming close, then it would be a lot more difficult for me to hit that shot. So if I was single scope like this, my reaction times aren't going to be nearly as good. So positioning wise, I'm here because I know that people always throw this flashbang off here, well, a lot of people, and I'll be able to catch them, alright? And I'm going to be in a spot where, you know, their flashbang that they're going to throw off that isn't going to get me. The only flashbang that's going to get me is anything that lands in any of this area, which isn't going to be a common flashbang. So it's just a really good spot, and it's a smart spot to play. It's not the usual spot, which is a big problem for a lot of players, maybe in main or IM or open. They think, this is a great spot to go. And, you know, it is a good spot, but it's very situational. On gun rounds, I always go something like this, or I'll go over here. Now, if I'm over here, I actually single scope, all right? And the reason is I want to give myself a lot of leeway, because a lot of the time what's going to happen is they're going to be here and they're going to peek like this. And then after they peek this, they're going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to peek this next, if they're going to straight peek something, or they're going to throw a flash off this. Either way, if they're going to straight peek, they're going to strafe out far, and they're going to strafe out pretty quickly. So I want to give myself a little bit of room. I'm going to aim over here. I'm not going to be aimed like this. I'm going to be aimed over here, and they're just going to walk into my crosshair, and I'm going to get a really, really easy frag. I'm going to be able to pop down here, maybe throw a counter flash, get out of there, and just be happy with the 4v5 that I put me and my teammates in. So when I talk about crosshair placement, I just, from experience, I know my reaction time, I know how people peek, and I look at that and I put it all together, and then I aim in the same spot every time to give myself the best chance of getting the kill. Then the other thing about it is, when I'm in these spots, they're very unusual spots. They are not the spots that people are going to always peek and be ready for. And by them not being ready for it, I have a huge advantage. Alright? So, again, always try and remember what happened the last time you went at that spot, and just constantly adjust and constantly know yourself, know how your reaction time is, and know how other people peek their spots. Alright guys, the next tip I want to give you guys is something called left eye peeks. Now, what left eye peeking means is that you have a distinct advantage peeking over your left shoulder of your in-game model. So the reason for this is that a small portion of your model is hidden compared to someone peeking over their right shoulder. So to properly explain and show you guys, I want you guys to look at the difference between the model's head size when I go to these two different angles. Right here from this angle, you could see his head is completely exposed, and I could shoot him quite easily. Now we're going to switch spots. So as you can see from this angle, he's taking the same peek that I was when I was over there, and I'm taking the same peek that he was from over here, and you can see his head's almost completely hidden. Now all this means is that you want to take angles where you're peeking with your left arm showing first. Now it's something small, but it's definitely worth noting and taking into consideration, especially when you're hopping.